Well, having been here 9 months, I think when I first started, there was obviously some concern over maybe a recent performance at the World Cup, and having been here over the eight, 9 months, I've really enjoyed it, and I've been lucky enough to be surrounded in a really good coaching staff who are all passionate about fielding as well, and we see that as one of our vital components of our performance. I think our catch percentage of late is up there with the best 2 or 3 in the world. So, I couldn't be happier about the way that the boys are committing, both on and off the field at the moment, and it's great to be taking some confidence into this last game.
Shane, actually we see the conditions like when the lights are a bit low, then there will be difficult for the players to adopt the catchability. The success rate goes down. Especially we see the floodlights in Bangladesh a bit lower as compared to other venues. So how you adjust to the conditions while you adjusting to the players? Well
said. Obviously, being the home team, having fielded on that ground more than any other team, probably gives us a slight advantage. I suppose trying to get into position quickly, especially in the outfield, is important. I don't think there's any art. If the ball goes into the lights and you're in a position where you've just got to hold your base and hope that at some point it appears out of the light and you're in a decent position based on what you've seen from the ball off the bat, then you give yourself the best chance. And we've really gone hard across the team of being in a ready position, a split set position at bat ball contact, which the boys have bought into really well, both in the ring and in the outfield, especially in white ball cricket. So at the moment, we've dropped a couple of high balls under lights, under pressure, but overall there's a lot more to fielding, I believe, than just catching a high ball that goes into the sky. And I think the pressure that we're creating as a group in the ring with our ground fielding, our consistent throwing back to the keeper, finishing the play and achieving some of our goals that we've set ourselves as a team to do has been of high quality.
Shane, it's a very different period of Bangladesh cricket that you're saying you're here before.
Yep.
And most of these players are really young. How has that changed your view of Bangladesh cricket over the last 9 months?
Not a lot has changed. I love my experience here back in 2006 to 2008. Bangladesh Cricket have given me an awesome opportunity to work through the academy with the A team and with the national team, 15 odd years ago. And it was great back then to see, the likes of Mahamadou Al Riyad, Mushi and these guys debut, and now working with them at the end of the career. It's again, I'm very grateful to be a part of it. And I think that they're surrounded in a really good, positive group of young players at the moment. And as the senior players, their leadership skills across, whether they're captain or, we know we've got a good base of 4 or 5 senior players here. They've been excellent in terms of nurturing new players into the squad, so we couldn't ask more of them.
When you're back, even at that time, there was a lot of focus on one-day cricket. They did well in the 7 World Cup.
Yep.
It hasn't changed that much. Do you think it's got better now, the focus on one-day cricket?
I think in general the country tends to enjoy 2020 and white ball cricket a little bit more. We've had a lot of success, as we know, at home in ODI cricket. I think it's obviously challenging to play Test cricket, especially here in Chittagong. It was Chittagong when I was here 15 years ago. But I think the attitude overall it has genuinely improved. I think that obviously the players over the last 15 years have been exposed to some good coaching, and it's great to see some guys now that have been selected consistently, having played 10 to 15 games and have experienced some failure, which is where we learn. And we're starting to, I suppose, over the last couple of matches especially, build some momentum and some confidence as a group. So.
Though you are a fielding coach, you are a representative of team management of Bangladesh. I have a question of Mushfiqur Rahim. In the last 8 ODI innings, he scored just a 50. What the conversation between team management and Mushfiq at now?
I think that Mushfiq's, he's had a long career and he's a valuable player. His role, from what we see, is for him to bat through the innings and take the innings deep. Now, even though he didn't score heavily the other day, he took the game deeper with Riyadh, even though maybe we got behind the run rate a little bit and put some pressure back on ourselves. But the longer we take the game, and Mushfiq is one of those players along with Riyadh, the deeper we can take the game, the more likely we are to put some pressure back on our opposition, which we did, and then they make the mistake rather than us making the mistakes during those final overs. So I think Mushfiq is a versatile player in all three formats. Obviously he's retired now from 2020 cricket, but I mean, you couldn't ask more from a senior player in terms of his preparation, the way he goes about the game, his understanding of the game, both in one day and test cricket. So I'm not privy to the conversations between selectors and the captain to Mushfiq, but from what I'm seeing, you know, we couldn't be happier with his work ethic.
When you win the series, maybe you think that the job is done. So the intensity level sometimes drops a bit. So how do you see, how is that mood of the game, and how do you see towards it? Is it a bonus, or you feel you have a lot more to achieve?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah. Sometimes when you win the series,
yep.
and you maybe you think that the job is done. So the intensity level sometimes drops a bit. So how's the mood of the camp?
The job's never done. And we know as a team that has had some success and some losses over the last year or two, that there's never an international match that we take lightly. You know, we've spoken about having left game one behind, then won game two. We've already spoken about now that game's gone. This country's never beaten India 3-0, and that's a massive goal for us as a unit. And again, when you've got confidence, you know, and if we don't win 3-0, we pride ourselves on being really hard to beat as a unit, because I think that's what we've been over the last little while. We've come close in New Zealand to a couple of games against Pakistan. You know, we came close at the World Cup to potentially getting into a semi-final that probably was unexpected. So we've been competitive, you know what I mean? And that art of being hard to beat means that we're under pressure situations more often than not. Whether we win them, whether we lose them, we learn from them. And I know that, you know, after the series win the other night, that the boys have still got one eye on one more win here in this one-day series.
Going back to your first stage here, Mushi and others, they were in their early days. So did you follow them after going back from here? And over the years they have grown in stature. So how it feels to be related to them?
Yeah, I followed them a little bit. Obviously, when I left here, I had other roles in other positions, whether it be in Australia or Sri Lanka. So obviously I'm heavily invested in the team that I'm with at the time. But it's always nice having friendships and relationships with senior players that you worked with a long time ago, and it's made the transition of me coming back into this team a lot easier. And I've loved to watch them grow. You know, you look at the statistically, Tamim, Shakib, Mushfiq, Mohammadul Ala Riyadh, you know, they're the best players this country's ever produced now, and statistically that's a fact. So to have the opportunity again to come back and work with them towards the back end of their careers, for me, really humbling and grateful to be able to be back.
Atif?
Again, though we have won the game, do you think that top order is in focus in this game, because the wicket here can be produced a lot of runs? Top order needs to be more focused?
Definitely, no question asked. And I think that, again, that's been probably a common concern for us. This wicket, I think, is probably going to be a better wicket. We're probably going to get more value for shots. It's going to be a bit more consistent, probably especially with the bounce. And we pride ourselves, and our KPIs from a batting point of view is to try and have one of our top 5 batters in at the 40th over, trying to take that game as deep as we can. So it'll be important. You know, we've got some guys scoring 12, you know, and getting through that tough patch of 20 balls, which is obviously the hardest time to bat. So we've got guys doing that. It's the next step now of taking that 20 balls into that, you know, 50, 100 balls in that match-winning innings, and someone from the top 5 doing it. But in saying that, you know, you look at our number 8 batter at the moment. Do you know what I mean? He's come in and shown confidence, and we're hoping that everybody's a batter. You know, right from number 1 to a number 11. Yeah, the responsibility lies with the top 5 or 6, but we're a team. And if that means our number 8, and as Master Fish showed the other night, our number 11 gets us over the line, to me that's the culture that we want to create, that we can win from any position with any player. Whether we have injuries and some of our best players out of the team, we are hoping that we can build a depth within a squad so that when we do have the unlikelihood of an injury, that we can replace that player and still be as competitive as possible.
Shane, with no Rohit in the team and for 3 players missing, do you think that is the best chance for Bangladesh to get Sweden?
Sorry?
With no Rohit Sharma in the team,
Yep.
for 3 players missing, do you think this is the best chance for Bangladesh to get Sweden?
I think with him not playing, I think you're a much better chance. We saw his innings at the back end of the other day, and we know it was such a high calibre player that he is. And I'm a bit surprised he maybe didn't come in and bat early. He maybe fell a ball short, but I think without him there, and again, we're trying to concentrate a lot on what we do well and how we're going to prepare and how we're going to play, rather than too much on our opposition. And we do research our opposition quite thoroughly, but again, at the stage of where we're at, we're confident that we're getting our players into positions where they're confident in their own skills, rather than trying to match it up too much against our opposition. Once we get into a position where we're playing with confidence, we have a good understanding of our skill sets, what we can and can't do on different surfaces in different countries, then we'll start to look at our opposition in a little bit more depth.
Shane, there are some players in Bangladesh who are aging lately, and they might or might not have strong requests like the junior cricketers, or they might have some other issues. So how is it to work with those senior guys as a fielding coach?
It's been okay. It's been pretty easy. I mean, obviously, we talk about mastery and we talk about 10,000 hours. We talk about, the skill sets. When you look at our senior players, they've fielded a lot over 15 years in their career. So we just have to manage them and their confidence. Do you know what I mean? Whereas we have other players within the squad that are younger, haven't fielded at the intensity or the pressure levels that we were experienced the other night in such a beautiful big crowd. So it depends. Every player is different. For example, there'll be days where Shakib will spend half an hour fielding, and there'll be days where he doesn't feel that he needs it. Do you know what I mean? And it's important to manage the player from day to day to day. Where our younger group of players, we demand that they do a little bit extra because they haven't done the time that some of the senior players have. But overall, fielding is something that's high on our priority list, and it's supported right throughout our playing group. And as I mentioned before, our support staff, in Russ, Alan, Jamie, Rangana and Bulbul and Nick Lee, our trainer, they're really passionate about fielding. So as a fielding coach, I'm quite grateful that we've got staff who are just as passionate about fielding as I am.
Okay, I have 2 questions. One is student already. So what areas you are aiming at to develop in this game? This one. The second one is, are you taking it as a chance of testing other players who are not playing the first season?
Well, I'm not a selector, so you'll have to ask the selector that one. So that was a pretty easy one.
As a part of team management.
Yeah, I mean, other players might get a go. Look, to me, when you play against India or when you represent your country, unless there is a workload management issue, I don't think Bangladesh is in a position that we just rest players for the sake of resting players. We're not in the habit of winning consistently enough at the moment to have the luxury to be able to leave good players out. So to me, if you're fit and available for selection, we'll be looking to pick our best team as often as possible and to win as many games as we can.
Last 2 questions.
Shane, last year wasn't really great for as far as the fielding unit was concerned. They dropped a lot of catches, especially in the T20 World Cup last year. Over the last 9 months, we've seen a bit of improvement in ground fielding, also catching. Although 2 catches were dropped in the last one, but how does a team improve fielding at this level, and how do you maybe calculate it or measure that?
Really good question. I think the biggest transition from domestic cricket, or whether it's during our academy or A-team cricket, into international cricket is, as we know, the word called pressure. So one of us, I suppose, my greatest challenges is to get the players to understand what pressure is. And essentially that is, you know, in my opinion, the element of fear of failure or self-doubt in your ability to be able to do something. So trying to educate the players on what pressure actually looks like is one of our greatest, I suppose, focus areas at the moment, because that essentially impairs our confidence, you know, and then we've got to be, you know, we've really got to challenge the players then to commit a little bit more when things aren't going the way we would like them. And we want them to be courageous. And as a coaching group, we're trying to take the pressure away from the players. You know, I've got a video ready to show the boys tomorrow about a number of drop catches that all teams across the world have dropped and still win matches. So one thing, you know, catches win matches, but drop catches don't lose matches. And that's proven. So, you know, we can change the way we think about it. And as I said, like before, I think that our boys at the moment, the more catches that we drop, the more failure that we go through, the more chance we have of learning. And at the moment, to me, their ability to bounce back after failure, from my point of view, has been outstanding.
Last question.
So you just spoke about the pressure. The two crucial catches were dropped at dying moments of the last match. Do you feel that the pressure got of them, the situation, the crowd and everything?
A bit of everything. You know, well, KL Rahul dropped one as well, yeah? You know, so we all drop catches, yeah? And I think that the crowd, the pressure, as I said, so sometimes it's the fear factor. You know, it's like, so we think about potentially what are the repercussions of dropping a catch when the ball's in the air. We see a lot of high balls dropped under lights. Why? Because as fielders, we have time to think. Now, trying to train what we think when the ball's in the air is a very hard task, but one that can be learnt. And then, as I said, when we do drop catches under lights in critical moments, what we do then is create one of the greatest learning experiences. Because when the player walks off the ground, hopefully having won the game, then we can easily say to them that, look, catches don't lose matches, right? And that was a fact, and that happens quite regularly. And it is a part of the game. Yep, obviously we want to be consistent and drop as few as catches as possible. But as a team, if we drop a catch, at the moment, our support staff and our team are gelling together really well and trying to keep everyone's spirits high. And who knows, it could be someone else tomorrow that dropped one, and it could lose the match. Who knows? But as I said before, you know, we're really confident and happy with how the boys are training, especially, and committing on and off the field.
Thank you.
Thanks.